this part that we're looking at this stage is your proposal. So this is what we'll use in terms of giving you ethical clearance. Sorry, I'm getting contacted by your HFP. Giving you ethical clearance to continue with the actual physical research. Just as an aside, guys, those of you that are doing, what's the other one that we're doing at the moment? STML with me. There has been a change. Somebody needs to remind me to tell you this again. There has been a change. We've looked at a change, the HOP and I, and we're looking at giving 4 questions of 25 marks each, because I think the feedback from you guys in first semester was that there's too much to cover. So we've reduced the number of questions from 6 to 4, but that's a different thing that we'll talk about for STML. Please remind me to tell people that. Right, so this is your proposal. This is what we look at in terms of giving you ethical clearance to continue with your research and your physical research. At this stage, you're not allowed to contact your participants or your respondents yet, but this is a heck of a lot. And included in this will be getting your interview questions right, as well as if you're doing quantitative research, your survey content. In terms of the quantitative people, we will look at using existing scales so that we don't go and reinvent the wheel, okay, and have to go through other processes. Right, so in terms of the submission itself, and I'm going to go through the rubric fairly quickly, right, quite a bit included in the first bit here. So your title as well as the topic. Here you'll give us a bit of an understanding of obviously what the title is, and we've worked on the title at this stage, but specifically looking at things like the area of study, why it's necessary, literature that you consulted, numbers and stats and a bit of background, etc. In terms of the title, you can clearly see what the rubric says. Please do me a favor, that bit there, we are looking at titles that pop. Now, we've spent a lot of time chatting about titles already, so please remember to bring in that information that we had agreed and discussed the first time around. The second bit, and I'll do the theory around it, is your problem statement. I'm not sure why this includes the paradigm. I don't know why that is there, because the rubric actually makes no reference to the paradigm whatsoever. So I think the only reason why paradigm is there, and please, when you write it, but I'll give you a layout of what the document will look like as well. I think it's more about making sure that your problem statement talks directly to your paradigm. So if you have decided to use a positivist approach, that your problem talks about relationships between variables being not perfectly aligned or being confusing, or there's extra information needed. And if you've adopted an interpretivist paradigm, then you can give us the experiences and where the concerns are in terms of those experiences. So don't worry about that paradigm. I have no idea why that's there, actually. Right. And then we look at our research questions. Yeah, again, this isn't great. It should be research questions, research objectives, or hypotheses. So you will, and you, again, we'll do this properly, but people who don't watch this and don't attend will mess this up again. But the reality is that you will, when you do your research questions for an interpretivist design, you will have one overarching broad question. For me, it's the broadest question you can ask about a particular topic. And then you'll have clarifying questions. Those clarifying questions will relate to the sort of processes, clarifying the process, the sub-elements of that overall research question. You will then have objectives that are directly aligned with your sub-questions. Do not align your objective with your main question. Main question, sub-questions, those sub-questions align directly to your objectives. If you're doing positivist research, obviously quantitative research, you will have a single research question, and you will have your hypotheses, you will have your null and your alternate hypothesis. Please do me a favor, when you write those hypotheses, go look for examples that link nicely to the kind of format and the way they sound in terms of your area of study. We will talk about it, guys. We will help you with that here as well, the people that are here. And then the aim and the rationale of the study. The aim is the most simple thing in the world to write, in my mind, guys. When you write the aim of the research, you should, obviously the golden thread and all of that would be important, but you can just write the aim of my study is to, or the aim of the study is to, or the purpose of the study is to. If you start with those words, if you end up in the wrong place, you can't speak English properly, guys. And then just the rationale. We'll talk about the rationale. It's the justification. I will explain the justification. My approach to the justification is essentially what would happen if we left this problem alone. If you tell me nothing, then you don't have anything to research. But if you tell me, oh my gosh, this is serious, then you have your justification. We'll do that properly as well. Then your sampling, obviously, guys, we're going to talk about our population. We're going to narrow our population. We'll talk about our sampling. If you, I'm not going to go into detail now. Let me not overload at this stage. And then your methodology. So remember, if you're doing interpretivist, you'll have qualitative methodology, and you're going to use, you are going to use a interview process, open-ended, semi-structured interviews. If you are doing positivist, you will use surveys. We're not going to allow experiments. And then your research instrument. Remember, this means that you have to put your interview questions together. My suggestion is when you meet with your pod leaders, this is where I would spend a bit of time, because this is the stuff, guys, I can't attend to, because generally your interview questions will take quite a bit of time to figure out. And then obviously in terms of quantitative people, we will use existing scales. I will show you where to find those scales. What else is there? Nope, that's it. Okay. Yeah, referencing. Oh my gosh. If there's anyone here, I promise you, if there's any of the regular attenders that has referenced badly, I'm going to beat you with a stick. I threatened, I'm going to get fired for threatening my students. At least I'm not, what did someone say? Get beaten or something. Right. Any panicked people at this stage? Anyone panicking? No one panicking.
Not Vicky all the time, is not panicking this time around. Sorry.
Oh, I gotta love it. I love making people panic. So that's my prime objective. I don't know why that stopped sharing. Hold on a second. No, it won't share. What is wrong with VC Learn? I love that. I can't share. What is, there it is. Okay. I love the suffering and silence, guys. I can only imagine how bad my ratings are going to be for this module. Any threatens us. He's made me cry 3 times. He's told Ongs to stop being irritating. Remember all of these things when you evaluate me. Okay, let's start. So you'll see that these slides, and I shared these earlier today. I hope everyone found them. They must have gone out at about 4 o'clock, 3:30. Please remember to download these. Heart palpitations. That's my job, Justine. I cause heart palpitations. Normally it was because of my devastating looks and my charm, but these days it's just about instilling fear. Right, so let's look at the title. Guys, now you remember when we spoke about the title, and I don't want to spend a lot of time here because we've discussed what the title must look like in quite a bit of detail. I've showed you some of those titles that I like. You will recall the one that said roasting the competition, and then obviously colon, and I think it was an exploration of the potential of standalone coffee shops surviving within a world where we have these general sort of things like oh gosh, I can't remember coffee shops. When you have these franchise coffee shops that are around. So I just, for me, that roasting the competition, and then if you're doing an exploratory study, just say exploring. If you're doing a descriptive study, just say describing. So what makes a good title? So the first one is make sure that you capture your subject, capture your scope. The scope, you will remember, guys, would be where we might isolate it to KwaZulu-Natal, South Coast or North Coast or the Midlands area or Johannesburg, wherever. So make sure that we provide that bit of context. Please do not use abbreviations at all. You write things out in full here. And then please also, but all of this stuff I've said previously, your title must create a positive impression. On the Ziwe, just, I think, on the
Oh,
Ziwe,
sorry,
just
sorry.
please mute yourself. I think you have to create a positive impression when you write your title. Write it as something that pops, that grabs the attention. And then, guys, yeah, you all have stayed broadly within fields of study that you had a significant interest in. So you know the lingo within studies. You know what marketing sounds like. We know what supply chain sounds like. We know what finance sounds like. So to try and stay with the kinds of verbiage, and that's the wrong word, and I apologize for it, that you would use within that kind of study. We talk about the lexicon from a particular area. Yeah, 10 to 15 substantive words. My biggest concern is when this gets moderated that people don't count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so keep it to 15 words. It's going to take a bit of editing and a bit of, I think, just a little bit of clever boxing. And then please don't say study of, analysis of, research of. Just go exploring, describing, explaining. I can't remember what the other one is, guys, and then can be in the form of a question. I'm not a big fan of that, but it normally is a phrase. Any questions about the study? And I don't want to spend time here because in my mind we've fixed the study. Let's fix the title. What am I saying? Everyone okay with that one? Can I move on? Right. So let's look at part B. So if we look at this bit, we're really looking at the background. We're looking at why this is a concern. You'll remember you would have done part of this already. Remember stats and numbers and use references and give us an idea of why it is worth pursuing this bit of research. I think for us as a class, we spent a lot of time finalizing these titles. And I think a lot of these titles, and I know that a lot of these titles are very close to your heart because we've tried to stay within your areas of interest, within your areas of passion. Show your passion here. Show your passion with this bit here, guys. And then, yeah, the idea of it, tell that your leader that we need the study, why this is important. I just want to quickly go here again. Oh, golly, that's the wrong one. So just to link it back to here, hold on. So you're giving us your topic and yeah, so why it's necessary. Tell us why it's necessary. Use stats and numbers and literature. Yeah, and then what we expect from the title. So it lines relatively well. No issue with that because I think in your first submission you did this and you would have now when you start with this part, you would have received feedback on that. Then the problem statement. So for me, when we write the problem statement, I like the idea of part A, part B, and part C. I do not want you to write part A, part B, or part C anywhere. It's just my mind is quite jumbled. So I need to force myself to think in compartments. Otherwise, honestly, it's a merry-go-round and people are shooting things at me. So the reality is part A, part B, part C. I want you to start with that. The reality explains the deficiency. The reality explains the shortfall, the gap between what we would like to happen versus what is actually happening. So every single person, and I'm going to repeat something I said to the pod leaders this morning. For me, if you do not have a problem, you don't have a reason to do research. Can I also just say, when I told a group of people from a public university, a group of researchers and lecturers and procs from a public university, they said my thinking is colonial. So, yeah, here I am at my colonial best. But for me, if you don't have a problem, you don't have a reason to do research. What is the situation that brought us here? What is the specific issue that we are trying to find solutions to? If anyone wants to throw some titles here or wants to talk, we can look at finding examples of people that are online. I see we've had a couple more people join us. Anyone want to share what they're doing as their research? Come on. Unless you're happy to do this by yourself, but I'm quite happy for us to chat about it. Oh my gosh, my task has gone short. Go
I'm
for it.
driving,
Who is
so
that? Ongaziwe, tell me what you're researching.
it's Diang. So I'm driving, so I'm just gonna try to recall my title, but it's from the boardroom to the bedroom, exploring the perception of parents in studying interior design as a career.
So studying career design as a career.
Interior design, yeah. So from that interior
Okay.
design part, my capturing statement would be from the bedroom to the boardroom.
Okay. No, I love that. I really like that. Okay. I really like that.
Thank
So
you.
in terms of interior design, and remember, I know that a rough idea of what you guys are researching, but for me, the problem is that interior design is a career that has a shortage of people actually applying for it and qualifying for it. And the problem is that it's lost its attraction to young people. And the truth is, we're sitting with a situation that we have a significant shortfall of people opting for interior design as a career and therefore not studying it as a subject. Is that a fair reflection of the problem?
To
Hans?
somewhat to an extent, so that is why, as part of my research, I get to dwell more on the specialization of interior design, because then a typical person would think that interior design is about executions, color coordination, and the likes, whereas then one can go into your social designing or environmental designing. So that's when I get to break it
Is
down
it a
to
lack of understanding of what of what interior design
what
is about?
interior
Is that
design
the
is
problem?
about. Correct.
Okay, so your problem is there is a complete misunderstanding in terms of what interior design is about.
Correct, sir.
And it's a problem because of that misunderstanding, people aren't opting for it as a career. Is that okay as the next sentence?
Nope, it's not correct. And that is why we're breaking it down to explain.
Explain. Okay, nice. Okay, so Debs, let's look at yours. Exploring factors influencing millennial. Well, if you look at, and again, I love your title. So in terms of investment preferences, we have this new group of individuals who all of a sudden are now in careers and making money and contributing to society, paying taxes, and being being active parts of society. Yet no one's ever spent time to ask them what their investment preferences are. People tend to default that they'll do the same as their parents, but there's no guarantee of that. So the problem is we don't actually know what their investment preferences are, in particular in that area in Cape Town. Is that a fair reflection of your problem? Oh gosh, have I messed that one up as well? Okay, nice. Anyone else? Or do you want to tell me what your problem is in your problem statement, not your problem generally? No, that's
I'll
fine.
go.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Debs. Go, Joanne.
Yeah. So mine is describing the role of technology acceptance in the electronic health records. I've got my exact title, but it's really
Yeah.
trying to understand the barriers of technology acceptance so that we can sort of remove those barriers or reduce those barriers to enable better acceptance and get a better uptake of using electronic medical records. It's kind of what I'm aiming for.
So the reality there is this barrier that stands in the way of people moving from what would have been the traditional way of manual record keeping to embracing electronic record keeping. And it really is part of that resistance that we want to find out what the resistance and what the barriers are. Is that a fair comment?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks.
Okay, so guys, don't overthink it because I'm sitting here making this stuff up. Okay, Kateko, let me look at yours. Okay, yeah. So one of the challenges in terms of IT, and I think you guys know by now that my son is in that industry, is that it's often thought of as um, as a man's job, as the sort of the boys dominate, and that it's a bit of a bunch of men and bunch of boys essentially dominating the industry. And we know, I mean, it's so difficult for females to make it in the IT industry. So the the simple truth is you have to understand what is preventing women from going into it. And yes, it is a boys' club. It really is a boys' club. You listen to the language, you listen to the way they talk. I mean, my son tells me how they interact, and it is a boys' club. And I mean, if I look at their values, I mean, one of their values, and I can't say it online, but it is boys' club type values. And the simple truth is, we need to find out why women aren't going there. What is preventing? What is their concerns? What are their perceptions? Is that fair, Kateko? Okay, Justine, yeah. Oh my gosh. Again, when we think of the hospitality industry, it is such a diverse and wide industry. And the reality, just based on distances to travel, just based on trying to get a permanent update of skills and an ongoing update of skills, is a real challenge. And so we've got to look at, can we not do this in an online environment? Why can we not do it? Because we don't know what the actual value of it is in an online environment. And that's why we need to look at, can we actually use online training? What is the real value of adopting online training? Absolutely. If that's where you're going, okay. Without seeing your background, that's fine. Can I just say, sorry, now who's told me about that? Sorry, I really am dumb when it comes to this. Who did that? Oh my gosh, where are you? Yeah, sorry, Debs. Yeah, Debs, be very careful that you get your problem clear, because you've got a lot of almost disparate bits and pieces. You can talk about the risk management and those kinds of things, but the real problem is that we don't know what millennials are thinking in terms of where they would invest. And it could cause, but I would say a lot of that would be in your actual discussion, in your literature review, and when you start asking questions, you know, when you do your instrument. And I don't want to confuse you. Okay. So, but keep it simple. But for me, a lot of those things are almost questions that will be in your interview. Because the problem is we don't know what millennials want from investment. And you can ask those bits and pieces, you know, because there's so many alternatives, because of the idea of requirements. That I think, to me, a lot of that is in your interview questions. Okay. Debs, I hope I've not steered you, made you panic. Keep it simple. Those things are, for me, interview questions. Idil, I'll go back to yours. Where are you? I did see yours. I actually remember yours, Idil, because where is that? Yeah. Well, I think your problem is that one of the biggest challenges is trying to keep really good nurses in an environment where people overseas essentially can pay more, can provide different alternatives, etc. So the problem is we don't really know what we need to do to keep our nurses in this country. Because I think it is incredibly difficult, based on the fact that so many people are in the UAE, so many people are in the UK, etc. You know, places like the UAE wouldn't even train their own nurses because they'll know that they'll just grab from us. So the problem is, what do we do to keep those individuals here? Is that a fair comment? Sorry, Erdal.
Yeah, I
So
think it is. Yeah, it's one of the comments. I think that we do a lot, but obviously it's not stopping the outflow.
yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. And we need to know, what do we need to do to keep people, to keep nurses here? It's tough. Okay. Right. And then social media, choosing careers in tourism management. So again, you know, we don't have people going into tourism management anymore. And what we can do is to see what we can actually, and we don't know what influence social media marketing has in terms of getting people to join that particular industry. And we need to find out whether there is any influence, because we know that we've got social marketing messages, but we don't know whether it will actually convince people to go into tourism management. And there is a desperate shortfall of tourism management people in South Africa. Okay. Yeah, we've spoken about that one, but your problem is we've got a shortfall, and what can we do? What impact can social media play in really starting to attract people into a growing industry? Right. It's a big gap, absolutely. So I'm just going to steal Erdal's here in terms of the A. So guys, part B is the deficiency. It's the gap. Okay. It's the problem we're trying to solve. Please be careful. I'm talking from experience here. Please do not tell me what the solutions are here, because I mark a lot of this stuff and have been doing this for a heck of a long time. Students automatically think they know the solutions, and then somehow those solutions become part of your problem. First of all, your solutions are opinions, and you can't state opinion as fact. Here, we only want the deficiency. We're not giving options and suggestions and writing alternatives in there. And I can tell you now, you will think, oh, I'm talking rubbish, you won't do it. I promise you, people are going to catch themselves doing that. Here, it is the deficiency. Please, in terms of that deficiency, be careful that opinion isn't stated as fact, that you include some references around that. Okay. And I'm also, when I think of IRDLs, you could tell us the number of people that essentially leave South Africa, the number of qualified or professional nurses that leave South Africa, because those stats are available. We can also say where they're going. I mean, because those stats are available. Okay. So for me, part B, the deficiency. Part A is the ideal. So in terms of IRDLs, it is the, and I hate using the word ideally, but we could say ideally, um, hospitals have a set of preferred retention strategies available to minimize the turnover of professional nurses. So you here will give us the positive, the ideal, that we have those strategies available, and it will actually limit the number of professional nurses we lose. Guys, and then part C, oh my golly, apologies for that. Here we look at how will we improve it. For me, keep it very simple. The way we improve it here is that we will be adopting within the interpretivist paradigm a qualitative approach using semi-structured interviews with existing professional nurses to attempt to identify the solutions to our problem. As simple as that. So part B is, for me, the most important bit. And if you don't have that, you can't do research. I would start with part B. Part A describes the ideal. And then part C is the process that we are going to follow here. We're going to do a quantitative survey using existing scales to determine whatever we're going to determine. Any comments about those, guys? Honestly, you've got to hit me in the head when I get it wrong here, okay? Any comments about that one? Everyone happy with it? Can I just say, you are going to struggle with this. You are going to struggle with this. Please use your time with your pod leaders effectively, guys. Please attend, because I'm also getting complaints that people aren't arriving for meetings. I'm going to start contacting people if they're not there for meetings, guys. I really am. And I will also be talking directly to the people that didn't put the theoretical framework in, who messed up the referencing, because we've created a lot of opportunities. There are no excuses at this stage. There are no excuses. Sorry, I'm having a moment here. Right. Any questions, any comments about that? Everyone okay with that? As you quiet, you need to tell me that you're okay, or at least relatively okay. Right. Then the next one. So can I just show here, my apologies, where is that? So we've now transitioned from there. So your problem statement, please remember to write your problem statement and align it with your paradigm. You are not rediscussing your paradigm here. You're definitely not rediscussing your paradigm here. But I think it is more about the golden thread, that it sounds appropriate in terms of a positivist or obviously an interpretivist paradigm. So the next bit will be your research questions. So please remember again, it's research questions, objectives, stroke hypotheses. Okay, so it's not just hypotheses. Debs, you don't really at this stage. For me, if you want to wait a bit, don't start with that. Don't do that. I would do this. You will get feedback. Okay, you will get feedback from your pod leaders. We spend quite a bit of time talking about that as well. Okay, but if you don't have to wait, I would start with this. You can accommodate the feedback, but start with this. I promise you, this is a pain in the place where you don't want pains. So you've got to spend a bit of time here. Get it right, clarify it in your mind. And remember, start with part B. Guys, and then research questions and research objectives. So if it's interpretivism, it's research questions and research objectives. If it is positivism, it is a research question and hypotheses, obviously a null and an alternate hypothesis. Please, 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 if you're doing, and again, people will mess this up, but again, I'm assuming it will be people that haven't been in my class or don't listen to the recordings. If you That's good. That's wonderful, Debs. That's yeah, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, I think that's impressive, guys. Please just remember, I do not. If you are doing an interpretivist approach, I do not want to see hypotheses. It destroys your golden thread. You will only have hypotheses if you are doing a positivist approach. Okay. If you're doing a positivist approach, I do not want to see research objectives. Okay, I only want to see your research question, one research question, and your research objectives. And I know that I'm sounding like a pain and an autocrat, but guys, we have limited time to get this right. We really have limited time. And if you think of it, okay, we normally go over an hour, so I don't care too much about that. But we generally are supposed to have an hour a week together. Yeah, I know. Oh gosh, his Ong's confused again. Oh, yeah, I'm not allowed to say she irritates me because I'm being recorded, but she irritates
No,
me.
sir, she's not confused. We were discussing what the hell is a hypothesis. We're gonna ask him.
No hypothesis if you're doing
This
qualitative
time around,
research.
I'm
Don't
on
worry.
a good side.
Hmm?
This
Yeah?
time around,
Oh,
I'm on a
obviously,
good side. Mm-mm.
obviously, we've just been thrown under the bus. Okay, guys, let's look at qualitative research. So you'll see here, and obviously, if you're doing qualitative research, please do me a favor and delete anything that says quantitative. If you're doing quantitative research, delete everything that says qualitative. In the past, I had separated the two documents, but it makes it very difficult to teach from. So you need to delete. If you're doing quantitative research, anything to do with qualitative, delete it. Okay, and I've been very specific because I say qualitative studies, okay, and the other way around, right? So you need to do that. I'm not doing that for you. Right, so let's look at qualitative. So I'm now talking to the people who have adopted an interpretivist paradigm, an interpretivist lens, and we are looking at the people who are going to use interviews and obviously do qualitative research. So you will see that there are two questions. You will have your central question and sub questions. Another way to look at that is your overarching question, and for me, your sub questions are clarifying questions. I'll explain that in a second. Can I quickly, I should, hold on a second. The lecturers would have been more organized and would have had this done beforehand. Hold on a second. Do you want me to give you this again? This layout? I think I can post this, hey? So it gives you a outline of what to put in, guys. It is a perfect layout. Just follow it, okay? Just follow it. So title, introduction, background, problem statement, boom, boom, boom. Okay, don't put A, B, and C because it'll irritate me and your markers, your research questions. So please note at how I've laid this out. Again, please delete the one that doesn't refer. Right. So if you're doing quantitative research, what is the relationship between I don't know, technology acceptance and perceived value of a new HR system. Okay, what is the relationship? In terms of qualitative research, guys, your overarching question is that it is the broadest question you can ask about your particular issue, your particular problem. Please, only what and how questions. Why questions relate to that. Even just to make it simple, don't go to why questions anywhere. I want only what and how questions. And it has to start with what and it has to start with how. Also, when we start putting the interview together, I want you to only use what and how questions. And obviously, when I talk to the interview, I'm talking to the qualitative people. Right. So, and I don't want to do this, but you're not going to write qualitative, quantitative, but it will look like this if once you delete that. Your research question overall, if you're doing, sorry, and then you look at that. That's what your qualitative submission would look like. Yeah, sorry, and I don't like to determine. I'll fix it when we get there. You can just say to explore. These research objectives are taken from those clarifying questions. So those clarifying questions need to directly link to your research objectives. Okay, I mean, and again, I'm getting excited because I can use paint. So you guys must know the level of excitement there is right now. But in terms of the qualitative research, you will have your overarching question. Okay, you will have your sub questions. Please indent your sub questions so we can see the difference. Those sub questions will, and remember, they'll all, and that's a question mark in case somebody wants to criticize my art. So those are all your what and how questions. So these are your research questions. Okay. Gosh, it looks terrible. I'm so sorry. Your research objectives, and remember, you'll have objectives, take their lead from there. So that question will become your first research objective. So if your question is what additional incentives can be provided to retain professional nurses, here you would say to explore or to explain the incentives that can be provided to attract or to retain professional nurses. And that becomes your first question, that becomes your second question, and it ties in directly. So again, in terms of the golden thread, these are the bits of pieces, guys, where, oh, Seshangule, you have failed. I will find out who you're, I'm deeply, deeply offended. You are going to fail. Good luck. I'll see you next year and the year after. Honestly, if your son's 2, he can do better. I know that. You should say, my 2-year-old son can do better. Okay, those become your research objectives. And remember, if you're doing an exploratory study, you'll go to explore. If you're doing a descriptive study, you'll go to describe. If you're doing an explanatory study, you'll go to explain. But those 3 take their lead from there. That main question doesn't become a research objective because those sub-questions clarify the main question. It would be a tautology. It would be superfluous. It would be a duplicate. Okay, it would be a tautology to do that. And tautology I just used because I want to sound fancy because I know I'm Afrikaans. Okay, linked like that. So this is for the qualitative people. Okay. If you're doing, sorry, I don't want to bugger this up completely. Right, so in terms of your research questions, if you're doing quantitative, it'll look like that. Research question, you'll have one research question. I'm going to kill that off there. And you would have your hypotheses, and that wouldn't be there. Okay, so it'll look like that. So please delete, delete, delete. And you'll see in terms of the aim and rationale, which we'll talk about, if you start with the aim of the study is to, you can't go wrong. We'll discuss the rationale in a second. That makes sense to the quantitative people. I don't know if I've got any positivists here. Okay. I'm going to be accused of being unprofessional again. I've just realized that. Okay, so that's what we do. I just want to here change that, guys. And remember, it won't always be explore. It's an example. If you're doing descriptive, it's to describe, to explain, whatever. Okay, remember that, please. It's part of that golden thread. Right. I wonder, I'll save it there. I'll share this straight after. Okay, guys. Right, so to look at this bit now. So your central question, so as I said, is always, yeah, please only one central question. It's we at a higher level you can ask two. Here you're asking one. Okay, one central question. I don't want to mess with this too much because obviously I use this for honors as well. You know what? Yeah, no, I've already sent this to you guys. So one central question. And you can see there, guys, you ask yourself, what is the broadest question that I can ask about this particular topic under study? What is the single broadest question I can ask? Okay. The clarifying questions generally will be your, and I use clarifying questions, they will often be process questions. So if you have a question about retention as your overall broad question, I would imagine that you would have clarifying questions that may relate to what training interventions can we use, what incentives can we use, what I don't know what the third one is, honestly. Sorry, Edel, I think you will know what it is, but you can use it to clarify what are the sub-elements in terms of retention. It's often to do with training. It's often to do with opportunities. It's often to do with incentives and salary. Is that a fair question, a fair comment, Edel?
Yes, yes, it is.
So those are your clarifying ones, okay? And guys, every one of you would have those clarifying questions. Please try and limit yourself to 3 maximum. It's okay to go 4, but the more you go, the more we have to prove later. So please, 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 3 clarifying questions. If it's 2, that's fine as well. Okay, 2 or 3. Okay. I know that I should attempt clarifying questions for other people, but I'd really just want to carry on a little bit further. Okay, so your main question and then those sub-questions. Right, so qualitative studies, yeah, said 3 to 4, try and keep it to 3. Okay, now remember those sub-questions become your research objectives. So just another reminder, we do not want to see why questions. Get it out of your head. If you're asking a why question, you have not listened to this recording, so I wouldn't even get to you and you deserve to fail. What and how questions, what or how questions, okay? Right. So quantitative studies, you will do a single research question. You will do a single research question. Oh gosh, where are the objectives? Why have I not got those in there? Damn it. Okay, guys, just remember your objectives are there and linked to your sub-questions. Apologies, guys. You know, I keep changing this. That was a mistake on my side, but I've explained this well enough. Right, so in terms of your quantitative research, you'll see that it's often what is the relationship between, keep it very simple, it's a single question, no sub-questions. Okay, again, look at the purpose of the study and capture that as part of your research question. In terms of the research questions and how and remember, you only have one research question, you'll see that you generally would have your two hypotheses, your null and your alternate hypothesis. Right. I'm not worried about the statistical procedures at this stage. What I've done for the quantitative, guys, I don't know if it's worth doing. I've given you a bit of the script to ask your question. You can fill that in, but again, this is up to you. Just remember a single question and then your hypotheses. And then the aim of the study, yeah, there are a couple of criteria, guys. Don't wander off and try and get fancy. Specific and precise is part of that golden thread. Concise, brevity is your friend. Clear, no confusion. Tell us what you want to achieve, goal-oriented. For me, I've given a couple of scripts for you to use. If you use that sentence there, if you end up in the wrong place, oh gosh, Fabian, you go. Honestly, go. But sorry, I won't carry on after this. Okay, go, 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 go. Be with your pod leader. Apologies, but apologies. Okay, guys, and there is the aim of the paper. I won't carry on because it's a little bit unfair now on other people. I will stay though if you want to chat about stuff that we've done up to now.